Concern. We are joined now via telephone by political commentator Pat Buchanan. Pat served as a senior advisor to both Presidents Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan. And our friend Pat is also the author of The Greatest Comeback, How Richard Nixon Rose from Defeat to Create the New Majority. As always, Patrick J., thanks for your time here on Newsmax Prime.
Delighted, JD.
Now, Pat, the president often engages in self-adulation, but some of those lines last night could have been used for self-flagellation. Hasn't this president proven to be a divider instead of a uniter?
I think that's going to be the conclusion of his presidency, even by many of his friends and allies, that the President of the United States in his 7 years thus far has not only failed to unite the country behind his agenda because of the way he has managed the presidency and waged battle with his oppositions, he has deepened the divisions, and we are more divided now, I think, than we were in 2008 when he won the presidency. And quite frankly, after he won it, JD, I think he had a lot of high hopes and expectations, even on the part of a lot of people that didn't support him.
Were you surprised at all, Pat, that he actually admitted that as being one of his biggest regrets?
No, I'm not surprised, because I think he is in a reflective mood. I've noticed it when he's speaking with the press that he's gotten to the point where I think he says, look, I'm not going to withhold anything I want to say right now because I got one more year and I'm going to get it off my chest. And I think he also realizes any agenda he's got with the Congress now is, if it's got any kind of controversy attached to it or divisiveness attached to it, isn't going anywhere.
Well, Pat, the president made some not-so-veiled references to Ted Cruz and Donald Trump, and some have speculated that this president might actually be trying to clear the path for Donald Trump so that a Democrat could win next November. What do you think of that theory that's been making the rounds lately?
I think my view would be that the president is genuinely upset with the kind of attacks that Trump and Cruz are making upon him. But what he does not realize is that when he goes after Trump and Cruz, he simply enhances their credibility inside the Republican Party, which wants a leader who will stand up and be effective in opposing what the president has done and what the president has tried to do. In other words, if you got President of the United States Barack Obama attacking you, JD, and you were running for something, you would be in good shape.
It is nice to have the bully pulpit try to bully you when you're seeking attention and votes, at least on the Republican side. Tell you what, let's do right now. Let's expand our conversation by welcoming in the president of Concerned Women for America, Penny Nance. Penny is joining us from Newsmax, Washington. It's great to have you here, Penny. And we would be
good evening. Thanks, JD.
Absolutely. We would be remiss if we didn't deal somewhat with the Republican response last night. Nikki Haley, the governor of South Carolina, during the evening, she did not name names, but this morning, she went after Donald Trump by name on NBC's Today Show. Let's take a look at that.
He was one of them, yes. He was one. There's other people in the media. There's people in my state. I think we're seeing it across the country. But yes, Mr. Trump has definitely contributed to what I think is just irresponsible talk.
So that was Nikki Haley on NBC. Donald Trump was on Fox and Friends via telephone. Let's listen to Mr. Trump's rejoinder.
Number one, she's very weak on illegal immigration, and, I've known that for a long time, but she's weak on illegal immigration, and she certainly has no trouble asking me for campaign contributions, because over the years she's asked me for a hell of a lot of money.
So, Penny, Governor Haley offering the Republican response. I would imagine that the RNC chairman looked over her remarks before she made them. Is this the most graphic example of the establishment versus Trump, in your opinion? And do you agree with what Governor Haley had to say, Penny?
Well, I would suggest that everybody take a minute and watch her response. I was really pleased, actually, with what she had to say. She talked a lot about American exceptionalism. She has a great story as the daughter of new immigrants to the U.S. who grew up poor and grew up, in South Carolina as a minority, and she loves the state of South Carolina. She did a great job as governor during such a horrible situation when folks were murdered in Charleston by that white supremacist. And she talked about in her response how instead of turning on each other, the state of South Carolina turned to God, and they got on their knees. And so I think she had a really great response and talked about American exceptionalism, talked about the economy. Look, the truth of the matter is the president lives in some alternative universe. Half of the country is living on less than $30,000 a year. People are losing their health care. Rates are going up. He's the most pro-abortion president in U.S. history. The country is a mess. ISIS is running rampant. And so I think the fact that he's in denial, that the Republicans are trying to actually address the issue, is going to go a long way. Her tone was good.
I have to agree with you. I have to agree with you, Penny. I thought she was a very smart choice for Republicans to pick her. She's a woman, she's young, she's a minority. Pat, what do you think?
Well, I think that clearly her speech, as a speech, was an excellent was an excellent answer to the President of the United States in the speech. But look, this has got a real political component to what she is doing, and she verified it today when she named Donald Trump by name as one of those who's the angry ones. What she is doing is she is basically establishing herself as a leading voice in the anti-Trump, non-Trump forces inside the Republican Party. And what makes this crucial is that she's the governor of South Carolina, which is the fallback state for Trump, supposing he loses in Iowa, say, and has a mixed view in New Hampshire. Then they go to South Carolina. It seems to me that Nikki Haley is taking basically the de facto lead in the Stop Trump movement in the Republican Party.
Well, more than that, Pat, and I want to get Penny in on this. Basically, if Governor Haley is, and with all the other nice things you had to say, let's get down to brass tacks, because there's a primary and people are pointing out differences. In your mind, Penny Nance, is Governor Nikki Haley the leading establishment choice now as a potential running mate for an establishment nominee?
I don't know if people are going to go that far down the road. I mean, people haven't decided yet on who the front runner is. So, look, she would be a great choice. I think that they need a woman, though. I really do. I think we know that it's going to be Hillary Clinton for the Democrats, and I think if the Republicans are smart, they will choose a woman as at least the vice presidential pick, because unfortunately Carly Fiorina hasn't done that well to be the front runner. But there's any number of people. And listen, they could do a lot worse than Nikki Haley. I think she would be a great choice. She's pro-life. She's socially conservative. She's been a governor. I think she would be a good leader.
Pat, do you think they're setting her up to be a potential vice president nominee?
Well, it depends on who wins the nomination. I think if Donald Trump wins the nomination, I don't think he would consider someone who really attacked him as the choice.
He's got a long memory and thin skin. He would never choose her, certainly.
Well, this is my feeling. There's no doubt that, look, it would be advantageous for Republicans to have a woman on the ticket, and she is probably the most prominent woman, I think, in the Republican Party. But the very fact that she has taken sides now in this battle and conspicuously come out, I think, de facto, certainly actually against Trump and probably against Cruz, probably limits her, because, I mean, if you can't carry South Carolina yourself, you've got a real problem. But again, I think this is going to have a considerable effect, I think, on the politics of the next 3 weeks in Iowa and New Hampshire as we head towards South Carolina.
All right, we will have to leave it right there, at least in terms of the discussion. Penny, we always appreciate your perspective, and I'd be remiss, Pat, if I didn't point out, you and I showed up in newspapers around the country today and mentioned in the column by opinion writer Jeff Jacoby of the Boston Globe, saying that it was culture warrior Pat Buchanan, TV personality, and former Arizona Congressman J.D. Hayworth. We were a narrow sliver of the political right, and now getting tough on illegal immigration has become the norm to the point where Jeff Jacoby is saying he's a dissident because he's more of an open borders type. It's something we'll try to talk to Jeff about next week. But Pat, I just got a kick out of that, being honored by being mentioned in the same paragraph with you. Thanks so much.
Watch that, J.D.
All right, Patrick J. Buchanan via telephone, Penny Nance at Newsmax, Washington. You both have our thanks, and we'll be back with more after this.